morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Dr. Vishnu VY, Associate Professor at AIIMS New Delhi. I'm going to interview for the IIM talk show of legends of neurology. Today we have with us Professor MB Padma Srivastava. She is the Chief of Neuroscience Center at AIIMS and the Head of the Department of Neurology. And there are a lot of other extensions to her work. We'll go into that. Rather than saying it now, we'll say it one by one. Okay, so welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Vishnu.
How does it feel to be called a legend?
It's very humbling. In fact, I must say that I was surprised, and that was pleasantly surprised and really humbled that Indian Academy of Neurology actually considers, to give this term. I personally don't think I deserve that, but I'm truly humbled, and thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. And you don't feel that you have been called old, no?
Old is just a number, Vishnu. So you're old as you know, what you feel is what your age is. So
yeah,
if you don't feel old, you're not old.
Yeah, yes. So we are whatever is there, a number and young age. Okay. So what compared to what most of the people have done, so what we will do is we'll trace your life. Okay. So I don't know the reason why they have chosen me, for partly because I have been associated with you for some time, but your early career or early life, I have been not there. So
you were not born.
Yeah, so. I'm not born also. so let's look at those features and compare with the current scenarios and the current neurology setup now we are having. So coming to your early life. So where were you born? I mean, your first decade of life or first 2 decades of life?
Yeah. So I'm a citizen of this great nation. So I'm the only child to my parents. My mother, she's my icon. She'll always be. She's no more with me. She's passed, but she was a pediatrician. And my father is with me. He's 92 years old, and I'm very, very happy, proud that he's with me. So I'm the only child, and my initial childhood was like any other middle-class citizen in this country would be: conventional, conservative, and I have no regrets.
Okay, so your mom was a doctor, right, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're the only child. Was you a protected mom or a helicopter mom? What was she?
No wonder they chose you, Vishnu. You actually make things so interesting. I didn't know these terms existed. So I don't know about jet bomber mom also. But however, my mom was like any other mom. But as I said before, she's the closest I've come to a god. So in fact, in my puja room, I have her photograph always there. And if I need a direct reference to the God Almighty, I go through her. So that's what she was. That's why she will be. So I think all mothers, and we continue to do that to the progeny. She was truly an icon, because the reason I would say I use this term iconic is not exactly what you achieve. It's essentially how you face that numerous turbulations which are thrown at you ad lib as you grow. And that is true for me, for you, for anyone else, Vishnu.
Yes,
so it is the aptitude, the attitude, and how you face those. A life which is, and that's where I guess the experience and maturity counts. And that's actually what age gives you, not so much getting old. So it is with what kind of an attitude your persona is. In fact, that's how it grows. And that's how she's been. She had numerous problems. She faced it. She protected me. She helped me grow. And I am what I am because of her. So therefore, she's the closest I can say to the God.
Okay. So how was your dad? He was very strict, or?
No, not really, because I think my father, like I think any other parent, was would truly, no parent, at least in our kind of childhood, Vishnu, in our, the usual middle class, very conservative households, they have their goalposts and roles that they need to do.
Yeah.
So that would be achievable. But at the fundamental foundation would be that innate love, affection, and protection, and that is not unique. That is, I think, across average most households across the universe. And so he is, and he is now. He's my baby. I feel very proud to take care of him now.
Okay. So how was your schooling and all? So where did you do your schooling till 12th
So,
standard?
we lived out of a suitcase because
Okay.
my mother was in a government service, and we definitely didn't have godfathers and godmothers. So my poor mom had like a football. She was, transferred across the state wherever there was a vacancy and nobody wanted to go, I guess. So I lived out of a suitcase, and we would be transferred across the whole state, the undivided Andhra at that time. And I moved with her, and I could see how she toiled in the government service, and facing all those things. So but this one thing which was always there is that that knowledge is power, Vishnu.
Yeah.
And the one that was there with you is that you need to know that if the power is knowledge, then get that knowledge. And the knowledge then was basically schooling. So it was all the classes. So it was yes, like since most of us are also toppers, I was also a topper. So that was what was it. Like the day starts and day ends in topping that. So once you reach a top, there's also a pressure to maintain that, right?
Yeah.
So it's one is to get there and be there. So that was what was there. So I could actually define my entire childhood. So I had really no sports. My passion was music. I did learn singing and veena to some extent. I played veena because, again, as a conservative middle class family, there, the girl is required to do some arts, and I guess I'm a passion. So I did have some artistic nature in terms of painting. I do have a little bit of oil paints here and there,
Okay.
and also singing, which also was lost in it. But somewhere before it, I'm going to get back into singing sometime. But yes, that was the only thing. But a little beyond that. So I was one bookworm, very very, very dull, and I don't think I was a very interesting person.
Yeah, but
Something
you
about that.
yeah, thinking about your singing, I think you sang in All India Radio and all, no, right? So sometimes.
Yeah, I did, but that's a bygone era. And like when we define what is our priority and we have a goalpost, Vishnu, a lot of other stuff just get into the by lanes and I must say sidewalks of your life. So and when your priorities get back, then maybe you can go back and pick up the strings where you left them.
Yeah.
That again is not impossible. I intend to do that. Yes, but they were all left on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we will make you sing, madam. Don't worry. The next time. Okay, so coming from your medicine was a calling or what? How? Because your mother was a doctor, so you decided to become a doctor.
And in fact, it's interesting that yes, when but I also belong to that era where most people would judge the success or the measures of a success as is your child a doctor or is your child an engineer? And we've come a long way from that. I know that when the choice came to my son, the choices were abound and the spectrum is ever burgeoning. But at that time, there were these two things which defined success in societal fabric. But then I don't think that was what it is. I did it's amazing how different generations can be. I don't say that what is good or what is bad, but I sort of admired the way my mom toiled. And I like the work. So in fact, if I have to rewind my entire life and say, okay, now you're a doctor and you've been a neurologist now for eons of years, for docs years now. And what do you want to be? I would say that I will be a doctor again. And I would say I will be a neurologist again. So I think that's a very satisfying experience to look back and see. So yes, if you define that thing as a calling, Yeah, maybe it was a calling. So it was not just because she was a doctor or the society dictated it that a topper has to go into these two. To me, it was a beautiful thing to be a clinician and to be, you know, just face to face, that contact with a patient suffering, and be able to do something about it. Even now, even till date, Vishnu, it gives me a high like no other.
Yeah, I
That
can understand.
yeah, yes,
We'll
you
come to
belong
that.
to the same
We'll
thing.
come
You
to your
belong to the same tenor. I know that. Yes.
we'll come to your high clinical experience. We'll come to that later. So we'll just then you joined the medical college. I think the Osmania Medical College when you were an undergraduate. So I can imagine you wearing a sari with a pony. This your hair. Before going there, this haircut was always there with you, or
No, not really. Okay, so actually, this
because a lot of a lot of people ask. So a lot of people ask. This is where madam had this from. It is something. It's an iconic. Whenever you see a photography of yours,
I
this haircut
know,
is
I
part of your.
know, I know that. I know. But anyway, so I again the retracing that thing, the same thing back again, is that when you look at a middle class, South Indian family, cutting hair was not exactly. It was actually frowned upon. So at that time, in fact, if I would go to the college without oil in my hair and a parting, in fact, my aunt would say, "Hey, who's going to marry you?" So so therefore, it was important that and it didn't really bother me. So I did have plaits. I did put oil in my hair, but then there was a time when there was some kind of a rebellion. I don't want to get into those personal details, but yes, there was a reason, and I rebelled. So one of the ways of the showing or showcasing, in fact, the rebellion was cut hair. So I cut, and that actually happened when I came down here to Delhi when I joined MD medicine,
Okay.
general medicine in AIIMS. And it was not that I had to fit into a culture. There was actually a culture shock. I'm sure you're going to ask me about that. But then that was when I cut my hair, and this sort of grew. I don't know how I got a fringe, but it just happened, and then I stuck to it. It's the easiest hairstyle to maintain, but this was not always there. But then you see, even after that, I think it's nearly 3 decades. So that's how all of you who have most of you have been born after that, so you always seen me like this. Yes.
Yeah, I think at least in your generation, the males would have been in the hairstyle. The rebellion would have been to grow hair, not to cut hair. They grow hair, the exact opposite of what they do. So, from MBBS, when you joined MD medicine, MD medicine came naturally, or do you have neurology at that time itself in your mind, or
No,
just
not really. No,
yeah?
not neurology at all. One is that like again, the question was of the AIIMS was, of course, a dream place,
Okay.
and I'm sure that resonates with most even today. It
Yeah.
sort of has kept up that kind of benchmark. So that was great. But once I joined here, it was not that I would become a neurologist. Yes, I never wanted any other thing except basically clinical medicine. But in medicine, I may have, I may have thought of cardiology or something else. Neurology was not on cards. It was during general medicine, and I think when I had a posting in neurology, which was an experience which sort of had a spotlight in terms of being completely belonged into surroundings. I felt I belong to this place
Okay.
in neurology, and that I think that I attribute to the teachers then who are there still now, Professor G.K. Ahuja and even Professor Jain. Uh, they sort of it was beautiful to see that group was amazing. We had Dr. Ashok Verma, we had Professor Madhuri Bihari, and she was amazing. She still is, but just to look at the way they manage their own personal life, their professional, their thing at AIIMS itself was one thing which was a class apart from probably the peripheral medical colleges where you come from, in reasons more than one. But neurology I took up after my posting when I went to neurology.
Okay, so we'll come to that. Before that, how was your first day in AIIMS? From coming from South.
Okay, terrible. Let me tell you that. Terrible. Because it's etched in memory forever. One, it's a shock, right? I've never traveled outside the boundaries of Andhra Pradesh. Then I land up in the capital of the country, and believe me, at that time, this was the farthest I could go. I know now, 16 years old, go all over the universe. But then you must, that's where age comes in. I'm an ancient person. So, and I land here, and I think the bigger cities you go, there is a sense of being impersonal, and that's because everybody is rushing from point A to point B, right? So nobody is really bothered about who's walking beside you, and that is true. The bigger, and I'm sure it's even worse in New York. It's probably and we all know that now.
Yeah.
But at that time, I land up, and at that time there was no problem in getting a hostel accommodation. The day I joined, I got a hostel room. I come into the hostel room. It's empty. I'm lonely, and I have no friends. And so the natural recourse were tears. The worst was I joined, and my first posting was in fact in gastroenterology. So I go there and I report. I'm the junior resident. I was literally, figuratively tiny. Vishnu, you must believe me. I was really, really tiny. And in medicine, I had these seniors. I don't want to name them. They're big guys now. And then there are two of them, and they were in the ward. It's a busy gastro ward. And they said, "Oh, you just joined." I said, "Yes." And I had to actually put up my entire face to look up at them because they're literally very tall. And I was this tiny creature down. And they looked down on me and said, "You take this sample, go and give it to the side lab. It is an urgent sample. Get those reports and come back to us." I said, "Okay." So I went and picked, and I got the sample, and I said, I didn't know where the side lab was. Side lab was actually the second floor. I didn't know. So I went and landed in the animal house, which is some half a mile away. And you know the topography of institute. I go there and I see that there is this animal house. Where is the lab? And then I'm lost. So I break down into tears streaming down my face. And some good Samaritan asked me with this woman who's supposed to be a doctor, because I was wearing an apron, carrying two, test tubes of blood, and howling. So then they said, "What is it?" So I said, "I need to do this." Somebody took me there. Finally, I got the thing, and I went back, and I hated those two guys who were my seniors and who put me through this stress. But Vishnu, I'm telling you this, each step of it, I've learned I needed. So there's never any hand holding. I went on my own. Evening, I went all around the place, marked out where all I need to really go. And the first year of my general medicine, there is an award which is given to the best newcomer, and I got that award. And probably thanks to my faculty and all my colleagues, then very grudgingly, then they said, "Okay, she's arrived, doesn't matter." But I did have a tough time. So great memories. But I'll tell you one thing, I don't hate those seniors. I mean, they're still with me. But what I'm trying to say is, these things which are thrown at you will actually make you sharper, stronger. And also get they define what your priorities immediately are. And my priority there was, I need to know the topography, the geography. Nobody's going to handhold. If I need to stay in the game, play the game.
Yeah, it's a tough game. So from that period onwards, initially, that era, when you did residency, we have heard stories of being at rounds being so tough, being people being thrown out of wards, files flying out from here and there. So have you ever experienced your case file being thrown out anytime?
My case file didn't fly out,
Okay.
but I was witness to these case files being thrown out.
Okay.
And yes, I mean, I will not say that I was not shouted upon, and everybody needs that at some point of time.
Yeah.
But there is a sea change in our educational system, and there is also from that era to now, the changes that you see, Vishnu, is that the one thing that I've learned is there are some things which were absolutely right, some things which were not right.
Okay.
So the learning process beyond your textbooks and your journals and your clinical acumen is also your behavioral aspect and your maturity in dealing with life in general and people around you. So I have learned what I'm supposed to do, and I've also learned what I will never do when I reach that position of power to people below me. Because you see, I knew how I felt when I was a junior, when I was a resident, when I was a student, when I was a younger colleague. And so when I become senior, you see, this is a ladder. This is a ladder of life, Vishnu.
Yeah.
Somebody's climbing up and somebody's on top and someone would start climbing down. You meet. So, you exactly know what you're not supposed to do. That is what I've learned. So my seniors, in fact, my teachers, this Professor J.S. Bajaj, I put him on a pedestal. You heard about him.
Yeah.
He was anyway an icon, in nationally an icon. And he, in fact, there was a time in MD General Medicine where you're supposed to actually, your rounds would start, say, in the evening at 7, because that's your, admission day. So our unit's admission day. And we would start preparing the night before. And that day, we would all come at 6 in the morning and, spruce up all because he can pick up any case and tell about the case.
Mm-hmm.
And then go to the outpatient, come back, and then work up the admissions. And in the evening at 7 o'clock, and nobody would have even had a gulp of water because there was no time. And then at 7, when Professor J.S. Bajaj would walk in, and it was this tall figure, and he would imposingly come in, and then we were, in the unit, we had this SRs, we have JRs. JRs, you have this, the ladder, the hierarchical, the senior most and junior most. And when I joined the first year, I was the junior most, and they said, you have to present. So maybe, okay, I will present. So I was the first one to present, and I know everybody looking at me pityingly. Iski to ho gayi aaj. And Professor J.S. Bajaj walked in. That's the first time I actually interacted with him. And he was so kind. He probably understood the game plan of others. And, when you present, you're supposed to tell what this guy, nutritional status. You can't say, that time you had to know chapati, the size of a chapati, what approximate calories, and so on and so forth. And, there's a big thing there. But then at the end of it all, I got away. He was kind. That kindness was something I realized, one should inculcate. And also the hardness at times when he was the one who would throw, through the window. That time we didn't have barricades. And then the guy had to go down the 2 floors and pick up the case sheet and come back. Yes, that did happen. But, it actually made sure how much of, what I would say is readiness that people had to be, and that kind of a respect that they had on the residents as well as the students. Now I feel, Vishnu, it's more of camaraderie and friendship more than the hand-me-downs. It's like there is more why and why not, can we do it better? So, and you're more amenable to suggestions, but at the same time some amount of discipline and the guru shishya relationship, which is not just disciplinarian, there is a lot of respect, affection, which was also there. So I don't regret any of those. They were good times. In fact, I think, they were good times.
So the residency, the residency even now, and that there's a huge difference. In every way, even how you coordinate work. Now everything happens in WhatsApp. unit WhatsApp group, department WhatsApp group, residents themselves WhatsApp group, residents units WhatsApp groups. There are so many WhatsApp groups happening, and residents are all over the social media also, whether it is in YouTube, Quora, or also on things and all. So how do you think? I mean, there has to be a line, right? There has to be. Do you think there is a red line which the faculty shouldn't cross, or the residents shouldn't cross, whether it is in using the social media or the way they work in the wards and all? So as you compared to what you used to do at that point of time, compared to that, how do you feel?
Vishnu, I personally feel that the younger generation is smarter and more brilliant. And that is true because, you have smarter phones, smarter computers, everything is getting smarter. The generation now is much, much smarter. There's much more alacrity in picking up and much more comprehension in the mechanical as well as the technical world. What I guess the younger generation may not have is the maturity and the empathy. These two, because maturity essentially because of not having lived on earth for that many years, and or probably uniformly face issues which may actually make things adverse. The other is empathy, is because of the less personal involvement. Thanks to all this, there is a lot of time saving which the technical advancements have given us at the same time. So you can actually live in a virtual world, and now you're actually even trying to deal with virtual money. But the human factor and the human touch, so the empathy comes with the human factors and human touch, and that's where they're being limited. So I don't believe that ours was a golden era and yours is not, nor would I say that yours is completely honky-dory and ours was bad. The trick is to get in the good things, identify. I always say that there was a great scientist who was the chairman of our task force in DSD who says, find the spark. I think the responsibility of the older generation is to find the spark, because they have the maturity and empathy to do that and help that spark grow.
Yeah. So coming to the thesis, what was the MD thesis?
That was in pulmonary medicine, and my thesis guide was Professor Jane Pandey, who's also passed, another hugely respected teacher. Though my heart was not in it, but I was given that, and then I did it. It was in the interstitial lung disease and PFTs and all, which I never really bothered to do that, because that doing something where your heart is not in it is not going to help. But there, I didn't have much of choice to tell. So somebody was saying that, okay, Professor S.K. Sharma was the other co-guide. He probably had this was to be done. So he said, you do it. And I took it up. I did it, but I don't think my heart was there in it. So I would rather say that when I came to DM Neurology, we had to do 2 and I did 3 because my heart was there in that.
So what are the 3 DM thesis?
The 2 which were submitted was one on neurocystic sarcosis, the albendazole therapy. The other one was single small enhancing lesions, and the other one was I did an aphasia battery, which I translated to Hindi, the BDA battery, and the other one that I did was actually I looked into the atherosclerotic disease across the using an MR angiography and mapped out the atherosclerotic disease across intracranial and extracranial vasculature. All of them got published. And so, yes, so these 2 continue to be close to my heart, but I just embarked on the stroke journey because that's where I thought action was.
Okay, so how do you feel your first paper thesis will be published in Green Journal Neurology? Many people have that luxury of
I totally give that credit to my professor, my teacher, Professor G.K. Ahuja. And the thing is, Vishnu, it's amazing when your teacher believes in you. That's it. He believed in me. I think that's all I can say. That's very understated statement. He believed in me. Whole credit to him.
Okay, then after your DM, you joined as a faculty, right? Joined as an ad hoc faculty. Your family also started during that time. The work-life balance. I mean, I really understand how difficult it is to manage with a small child and at that time. So how initially, how is your first experience as a faculty in AIIMS? I mean, it should have been a dream come true. at that time.
Yeah. Faculty is a dream come true.
Yeah.
But let me put it in a way which would be applicable to everybody. Uh, you know, however much, especially, and this is true for a woman, it's no longer anybody's world. I don't think we have a gender definition of a world, but at least in the past, it used to be a woman in a man's world. So I think in that, however much, and that is true for women or a man, is when you come home, it should be a warm home. When you're coming back to a place where you belong, you recoup. So I always say that choose your partner well.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I tell all women is choose your partner well, because a lot of women may not have a choice in that. And I think that is changing.
Yeah.
And then you have a warm home, whether it is a child on the scene, there is help. And my son, my mother looked after.
Okay.
So I was given the independence to spread your wings and go. In fact, in one of the books that I wrote with Dr. Majaz Munis, who is like my brother, and in that thing, when we dedicated it to our families, I wrote there that my husband and my son were actually served as a wind beneath my wings. To help fly, you need that warmth of a home. So I think one of the things that the women at least have to stress here is that choose your partner very well. That's important. The picture that you put up here, Vishnu, is a beautiful picture of, you can see Professor Maheshwari here, Professor Jain, Professor Ahuja, Mrs. Ahuja, Dr. Who's also doctor, and you can see the beautiful ladies, Professor Madhuri Bihari, and my friend Manjari, and Dr. Sudha, who is, who she is. She's the tallest, figure we have for dementia, who's right now in Texas. And we have Dr. Monica, who's here, and Dr. Mrs. Jain, and that is me. And so, this is in 1993. That's when we passed RDM.
Okay, so I mean, you look at the people who are standing there. All are anyone you take them, all these stalwarts and in Indian neurology.
Yeah. So you have all of them, and international. Sudha is it? In fact, completely now she's right there up, and we've been in communication with her. You know that, yes.
Yeah, man. You went to your fellowship in US after joining faculty or before?
No, that was after the faculty.
After joining faculty.
After joining faculty.
How was your experience there? Your first time going outside India?
Okay, no. So that was the first time going outside India was not during fellowship. That was before that.
Okay.
And that was to my first trip wasn't to the US, was to a place called Madison. Okay. And yes, that was funny. Because this was ages ago, of course, and you don't have a photograph, thankfully, for that. But that time, I was still very young, and so I wore heels, which you would never do traveling. You would wear your most comfortable shoes. But then I did that. So the best kind of a dress, so that when you alight, you're going to United, you're going to America, right? So, and then I land, and I didn't know how these flights operated, and I just had 1 hour to transit through Chicago, Vishnu, O'Hare, right? So, and I was in this Air India flight, and so then all around, when en route to Chicago, they said, and in fact, that was through Frankfurt. So lady was saying that, are you mad? You will not be able to, and I had to go take the connection to Madison. You won't be able to do so. And I requested the air hostess. So she put me right in the front in the business thing just before we had to land. Okay. And the moment the gates up, she said, run. So I took my thing, I ran. So fortunately, through the immigration, at that time, it was much less. I mean, it was not like the last time we went through here. You can remember that. So, and I was running, my shoe, I tripped, I fell, my bag fell, I fell. And the guy came down, but probably because I was definitely tiny looking, and I was not looking, Pavam type of a face. So they helped me go through. I did catch the connection, but I will never forget that experience and how stupidly immature it was. But then that happens, and you remember these. right?
Yeah.
So the fellowship was much after that, and there was no issue in it.
Okay. So from NCC, from publishing in your neurocystic cirrhosis at that time. So how did you come to stroke?
Stroke was, I think, I still believe is the most happening thing. The place where, when you're talking about every second counts and time is brain, that obviously now applies to a lot more things because our understanding is has improved humongously. But then stroke was one thing which was so suddenly devastating, and there's so much one could do. Vishnu, you ask me again, I'll again be a strokeologist
Yeah.
because there's still so much to do.
Yeah.
Because now, in terms of prevention and recovery, so you see, this is a field which it's a minefield. It's a gold mine of trying to achieve something. That's so much, besides so much which has been done and so much that is being done, there's still so much to do.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah,
stroke is the,
it's
in fact,
dangerous to ask you about stroke because you
yeah,
won't stop talking about
I
stroke.
won't stop. And you only have few minutes now. You hardly have 20 minutes left. Now shoot.
No. I have a specific questions in stroke, so you have to
Okay.
answer that. So
All right.
So your first thrombolysis, I mean, you thrombolized in an era when people were still questioning the role of thrombolysis. Everybody was doubts, oh, thrombolysis, it's all bleeding, patients might die. So people were very skeptical. I think when you thrombolize, I would be having an MBBS second year or third year MBBS times. I don't think I heard about stroke thrombolysis also during my MBBS time. So at that time, I mean, AIIMS has always been evidence-based medicine speak. I mean, one of the pinnacles in India. So I can't imagine the amount of discussion, heated debates that would have happened during that time. So how was your first thrombolysis experience here?
Vishnu, let me get something straight here.
Yeah.
One is that, stroke is not a subject or a field where everybody gets into because it is, you get woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
right? It's not. It's a farthest from an armchair neurology. And neurology has shifted from being armchair. You see, you never say armchair cardiology, armchair gastro. Armchair neurology was a term which was applied. But now nobody talks about that because we moved away from it. So there was a time when they said that, neurology is a lot of brain science and you actually come to a diagnosis and do precious little after that. So that has changed. Now in stroke, however, one needs to, if somebody is getting into it, you can't sit on a podium and talk. You need to be there at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever it is, irrespective of what time in the middle of the night. Get your butt up and go there and do it. That's where it is. So that's one. The second is that we started thrombolysis in the year 2003 or 4. Now, this was approved in 1996. And then we have in 1995 and 96, the first thrombolysis was done in India in a private sector. But that case bled. And so, you sort of it died down in the sense that everybody, and still it is a bugbear that what if, and no consent thing has come now, just a couple of years ago. Before that, you needed to take consent in every damn thing. Sorry about it. What we needed, Vishnu, at that time is, one, I needed to make this free.
Okay.
Number two is that it had to be on your shelf. I can't run around for that. So what did I do? I had to go and first submit a letter to give me 2 vials of altiplase, lend me 2 vials of altiplase, so that I will prove it to you. I will show you the response and then you do that. And I had to get emergency guys on board to tell me when a stroke happens. Okay. So I had to develop, like Code Blue, I had to develop a program called Code Red. And in the department, there was no problem because in the department, there were not too many people who were too interested in stroke at that time.
Okay.
So this was something which was a lot of what you call as energy driven process. And, it's nice to jump into a running bandwagon rather than start the engine.
Starting.
Right?
Yeah.
So I did have a tough time because to convince one, emergency, number two was to get those 2 free vials. Eventually, after a lot of push, pull and all, we got it. The first case we thrombolized was actually turned out to be an EHS patient who was a 76-year-old woman who came to the emergency. And that time we had one of the residents who was very enthusiastic And then we went and thrombolized, and I do remember that, what joy it was when this lady actually responded and recovered. After that, I got 5 vials free. And then those who could afford, we had to tell them to replace it. EHS, I got another 5 vials. And subsequent to it is, it is history now that, we now have free treatment for everything. So the first 54 patients we published, and this was the first published report of intravenous thrombolysis from India.
Yeah.
I'm sure others have thrombolized, but this is the first published report. The importance of this, Vishnu, is I did not wait for PT-INR or platelet count.
Yeah,
there was no way. So once this happened, I had an avalanche of bombarding things that I went beyond evidence. How dare you do this? How can you break the rules? Well, now you know, right?
Yeah.
The whole world was actually doing that. Who wants it? Wean in your patients. I'm not going to thrombolize somebody on heparin without getting APTT done. But then every single person who's just got a stroke with nothing, no anticoagulation or anything, why am I going to wait for this? Anyhow, let's not get into that. So therefore, and now you know the guidelines, right?
Yeah.
But we were the first few, and of course, like any Indian publication, we don't get much credit for that. But 2007 we did it.
Yeah. So that's whenever somebody is successful, the initial part is the one difficult. Once one is successful, it's easy to get behind the bandwagon, as you say. So once you started this, then you had a huge collaboration. You built up you are built up, or you're part of a strong stroke collaborative network. You had like-minded people working together, right, throughout the country. So let's look at some of yours. So how? Okay, wait. So this was your initial part of the department, people who were there with you at that point of time. I basically choose, but this is before my era, at least my era. Where I was not there. So these are all the people which you work with, and this is the whole department. Your residents, your team. Actually, your team is made of residents, right? Residents and faculties, your team. And finally, you end up creating a strong stroke team in your department, of the full-fledged big stroke, one of the biggest stroke teams that you have in any public sector. I think this much number of team is really commendable. So, but I specifically wanted to ask about this first stroke summer school, because now we really have stroke summer schools. Because I have some personal thing about this, because I was a first year or second year resident in PG at that time. I desperately wanted to go. I couldn't go. Some of my seniors pushed me out and they went. One, it was in some Mashawara, some hill station or something. So everybody wanted to go. I was the junior most there. I wanted to go, but they didn't let me go. So I couldn't go for this first stroke summer school.
Vishnu, come on, I'll take you there sometime. Okay, now what actually you see the stroke summer school thing was, in fact, this idea was given by Werner Hacke.
Okay.
There were these stroke summer schools which you're well aware of, which are held in Europe. So one of those things I just mentioned to Werner that, look, I want to go. So he said, what do you mean you want to go? You start it in your country. You should be doing that instead of coming and attending stroke summer schools elsewhere. So then I wrote to Patrick Michael, and then he sort of handheld and he gave me all the laws and bylaws. So when I became the president of Indian Stroke Association, the first thing we did were, tweak it to our India centric, and then we passed it through the Indian Stroke Association, the executive, and then I launched it. So the first stroke summer school was when I was a president. And true to the sense of a summer school, which was held, like, the concept is have a captive audience. Yeah. That is, the guys can't go anywhere. So they are captive from morning till evening and have those sessions very interesting. And it's a very intensive sort of a group training program wherein you come out a little more wiser and you take in those take-home messages back to where you practice and implement them. And that was across different countries. So, but here we started it off to people who are likely to maintain this impetus of stroke management and take this back to wherever they come from and improve the stroke outcomes there. So we had just had 25, and we completely supported them economically in terms of, and the choice and how to select was also a process which we. So I think the strictest stroke summer school was that which was held in Mashobra, Shimla. True to itself, it is a beautiful building, but completely cut off from everywhere. Even if somebody wanted to go anywhere, they couldn't.
Yeah.
And so, but then that was some process. There was a little bit of an issue in reaching, from down south, from Kerala, in terms of connections and all. Later on, we became wiser now, so we have much more. Friendly approaches to be able to do, and it's grown
Okay.
now. And now that we've also conducted the first virtual stroke summer school.
Stroke
It's like
summer
a full
school, yeah.
circle, which you are you are one of the pillars who did that. So yeah, the thing is that I think it has grown because it definitely lent a value. It had a value add addition to the whole training program.
Yeah.
And also made people get more interested into the stroke and stick with it in the management. So we have beautiful icons. So I remember Andrew coming down for Dr. Shailja's stroke summer school.
Yeah.
How wonderful it was. So I think this is something which is going to stay now.
Yeah.
And I think after the summer school, several other, it was stroke, then epilepsy, and I'm sure there are other systems will also be there. Maybe you will start off your neuromuscular.
Let's see, ma'am. Let's see, ma'am. So I mean it's to see that was something which you start. I mean, you also start growing up, and it's really satisfying for you. So how, second thing which is other than the summer school which you started probably in India, maybe it's a telestroke system which you started in Himachal, and then it's kind of growing up in other states. So how did this idea of telestroke in Himachal came into?
So yeah, right. So then this was interesting, Vishnu. And I'm not sure that I should tell everything on the air. So I can always whisper in your ear sometimes later. But broadly, being correct, otherwise is we were trying to impress upon the governments as well that take stroke seriously. And we have this NPCDCS program, which was National Prevention of Non-Communicable Diseases, which did lay stress on the diabetes, on cardiovascular diseases, and stroke was added later. Now, once stroke was added, yes, the guidelines were being done, and you know how many times the guidelines had to be revised, and the last revision is just done a couple of weeks ago. The new guidelines will again come out now. Now, the telestroke guidelines have also been, released by the ICMR, and it's the Public Health Division in down south in Bangalore by Dr. Prashant Mathur. So the thing is that when I went and spoke about it, one of the questions that to face is, what is it that is not being done, which is there. So I said, we're not thrombalizing. So then they said, what? So just like you have a clot in the heart, you can do that in the brain. And this was in the year 2013. And I was taken aback. I said, look, we have a program, we have a provision, and we have a guideline in existence. And somehow it's not percolating down to the masses where it needs to be. So staying in ivory towers of academic excellence, or even, big tertiary care private institutes won't help. So we said, how do we go about that? So then we did have, the upper echelons of administration who were amenable to the idea. So as a top-down approach, the Himachal government listened to my proposal. And then what is the most cost-effective way of hand-holding them? Because there were just 3 neurologists at that time. Said, okay, we will all handhold them. And the only way is that get monkey-proof operating protocols. And if there is a person at a district level who's managing a pregnancy, a delivery, a trauma, an MI, so an appendicitis, and why not stroke? Mm-hmm. You need not be a gynecologist was looking at a trauma. There was a pediatrician who was looking at a heart attack. So why isn't that a physician can't do a stroke? So, and since that concept is not new, though we don't have a stroke physician training program in strictest sense. So therefore we got this established, and out of 12 districts, 2 districts but totally, those mountainous and extremely tough terrain like Ladakh, where you
Yeah.
hold a camp. So therefore, we left those and the 10 districts which had a district CT running. We took in, and the rest was definitely history because it came down from the chief secretary, from the chief secretary of the health, so top down. So whenever there's a top down approach, things work. And we have some very, very good neurologists. We had Sudhir and Amit, and later on we have our own Ashish who joined, and such dedicated and such wonderfully competent people. And so the WhatsApp thing was basically used to transfer the CT image
Okay.
along with a checklist. And I said it's like flying a plane, have all your check boxes ticked. If there is one not ticked, then don't thrombolize. And of course, there was a lot of TOT programs and train the trainers, and it went into hub and spoke models. And let's not discuss that; that'll become a whole, the
Yeah.
talk by itself. But that model worked. We published, went into the international scene, and this is probably the no cost model. Because you have telestroke, which is pretty
Yeah.
expensive otherwise, and it's been now adopted all across, and all spokes, which is even including public private sectors.
And you have been involved in the stroke team in other states in Uttarakhand, I think Punjab. You been involved in a couple of states also, right? You are in the process of hand-holding
Yeah,
them.
yeah. Out of Punjab is a success story because of Dheeraj and Jairaj.
Yeah.
But Haryana and down south, Dr. Shailja has done such a wonderful job there. So there's a whole lot of south and Bangalore and all. South is running extremely well, but it's a middle of the country yet, which has to take off still. But I would say some challenges out there, and there are huge states like Uttar Pradesh and others where we still have to make significant inroads, although there are a lot of good physicians. And in that, Vishnu, you are also there with
Yeah.
our Smart India and the impetus, and even a lot of scientific agencies which have also now come to help us bolster these efforts. So yes, we are going somewhere.
Yeah. So let's come to some of your collaborators. I think this photo, I think, is for the WSC. I think US looking for the
Yeah,
area venue or
yes,
something,
that's
right?
that's
Warner
Vernon
Hackey.
Hakib, that's
Yeah.
Stephen Davis there, Dr. Jairaj Pandian, Rohit. I mean, we lost him, Dr. Shiv
Yeah.
Kumar,
Yeah.
that's a sad. And Dr. Deepak Arjundas. See, this was on. I forget the name of this. This is this palace which has been turned into a hotel in
Okay.
Hyderabad, and we were planning a dinner for the
Okay.
World Stroke. You see, that's the first time that the World Stroke Congress was held in 2016, and full credit to Dr. Jairaj for that.
Yeah.
So I was also the scientific co-chair for WSC
Good.
2016, and as part of the ISA team, we had to go and monitor, and we had to convince these people that look, this is a great place, and they did. They
Yeah.
were convinced. Yes.
So these are
Oh, yeah, yeah. Let
so
me
yeah,
tell
yeah,
you
yeah.
about this. You see,
Yeah.
this one, this is you again. You have the stroke interventionist there, Vikram, Gigi, Dr. Vinit Suri, of course, my closest friend, Dr. Subhash Kaur. That's Professor Talwar, the
Yeah.
scientific advisor to Punjab, Dr. Gagandeep and Rohit. So this was a meeting, Vishnu, we held, and we published this in IAN. You know what this is? This is the team which actually said we
Yeah.
need neurology to get into intervention.
Yeah. I was coming to that.
This was the one. This was the starting point. And you see Vikram and Gigi who really pushed ahead. And now you see we've also come to MT 2020
Yeah.
and these guys are actually winning international accolades on that. So this was the first meeting which said officially push it. We need
Yeah.
neurologists in the intervention.
Yeah, your paper at that time had listed lot of lot of not controversy among the radiologists, and also coming back to my question is there. So how long neurologists can sit and wait for not doing intervention? I think
No,
that's, yeah.
that
So
that
we,
era is over,
yeah.
Vishnu. That era is over. Now, if I was not old by definition, as you put it, I probably, if I had joined, I would go to interventions because you see, I understand brain, so I need to know physics and chemistry, and then I would deal with my patient. And you already have principals who have established like cardiac, gastro. The interventions need not be separate. And the more importantly, the the critical mass of interventionalists is important, whether they are neuroradiologists, they are radiologists, they are neurologists, they are neurosurgeons. This critical mass will only come in when all of them get trained and get into it. You have one stroke every 20 seconds, and 10% are large arteries. How can just a little bunch of neuroradiology deal with it? No. It's important that we should go beyond our boundaries. I'm saying that this should stay with us. I don't think that we look at a larger vision. And that's for the good for the nation and our patient. When you're putting patient specific and patient first, we get that critical mass. It's important that people who can train should train.
Yeah. I think you remember when we went to Iowa, their intervention team had 3 people: one neurologist, one neuroradiologist, one neurosurgeon.
Exactly.
3 days they were they were well coordinated. Once in 3 days they're on call, and it's a teamwork. Everyone can do it.
They should not be turf wars. There's absolutely no justification for that.
Yeah, coming after that, then so this is something which you had a close friendship with Pooja Khatri also. I think you went this. I don't know what place this is.
This I think was Stockholm.
Okay.
I think it was ESOC or I think probably there in Stockholm. I really don't know, some time back. Yes, Pooja is a dear friend. And this was, I think, one of those lighter moments that we could steal and come out. She's a, she is so big in stroke field. I could steal her away for a few moments.
Yeah.
Because I was free. She was not. She was in so many committees. So I said, come out.
Yeah, you had a collaborative IUSSTF meeting with her.
Yes, IUSSTF was there with her. And we had with Anish Singhal from MGH, then with Pooja, and later on with Sanjana Dayal, where you were also part of that team. Yes, IUS, that is Indo-US Science and Technology Forum, supported as well in a lot of these ventures.
Yes, then I think specifically about I think these 2 figures, one common man is Subhash Paul. These 2 figures. So you had a very close association with him. I think it's how do you think it means your relationship as a professionally as a stroke person?
He is what I would say is probably one of my closest friends I have. He is family. He's in fact if he's here, then we get him home. My husband Pradeep is friends with him, and he's family to us. And that's on a personal angle, but professionally, he's someone I always look up to. He sort of probably not overtly, but he was always in the back of my mind that I should be like him. He's a crowd puller everywhere, whether it's patients or his profession, his colleagues, his friends, his students. He's a crowd puller. He's like a magnet. People just go to him, and he's maintained that. So this was some of the, this was in 2019. They sort of gave me an oration, and they, felicitated. Obviously that was an honor. And we had also done a lot of stroke preceptorship programs with the government. And this was with Telangana. We had done, this was a stroke movement across India. We've gone to different states. And of course, in Andhra and Telangana, nothing would be without Subhash. And this is, who. I mean, Jairaj is our face of India to the world for stroke. Big guy. And Shailja is my dear friend. This was part of our University of Lancashire, collaboration with the Dame Carolyn Watkins. So, this was there for several years now. It's still ongoing. It's in one of its last legs, but then it probably will go on. And now this is part of our instruct team as well with the ICMR, which Jairaj had established. So, yes. So what's essential is, the stroke group is very cohesive. It's composite, and there are no geographic boundaries, whether it is west and north and south, or whether it is India and across. That's the kind of a warm feeling you get that yes, this is a nice cohesive group where people can be silos in their own thing, but also there's collaboration. This was also very similar. We had a stroke summit. You can see Dheeraj there.
And, I think Rohit sir is the only one missing there.
No, I'm sure he's somewhere there. Probably
not in this photo. He is also in this group. Yes. Then about a lot of we'll skip those things because we have time. come, yeah, I want to come to this. You're, I mean, it's a great, one of the greatest honors that as a citizen of India can get. You get the, not about, you don't get a dime for a penny for this award and all. But a lot of people have misconception that you get a lot of benefit when you get a Padma Shri. But but this award is from the government of India as to a citizen, one of the highest honors you receive. So how was your feeling to get a Padma Shri?
Completely humbled, Vishnu.
Padma
Completely
getting a Padma
humbled.
Shri. So a lot of,
Yeah, yeah.
lot
In
of
fact, they said Padma Srivastava is getting a Padma Shri. So it was like, yes, but I think, Vishnu, I don't know. I think I was lucky. I was in the right time at the right place, and this is something which uh, I don't know. I more than me, my family was. I got, it brought happiness all around. But I must tell you one thing: when you get sort of a recognition, it is besides an humbling experience, it gives you impetus to do a lot more. This kind of thing gives you that bolstering thing that innately you feel, oh, okay, somebody's looked at it, a societal fabric has recognized, so I need to give more. So it I don't think it ever brings you a sense of becoming arrogant. The pride is humbling.
yeah.
So I think this is a great moment. I owe it to the blessings for the reason I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, then
So
this
this
I
is a
think,
great Darbar Hall, and
yeah,
the Ashoka. I mean, this is really something else,
yeah,
Vishnu. But anyway, you all have a long time. I'm sure you will also be there. This was this Science and Technology National Award for Communications, and that was the health minister at that time,
yeah,
Dr. Harshvardhan, and that's the Secretary DST. This is actually given by the Department of Science and Technology. It's a national award. This is a coveted award,
yeah.
and now it's actually being given by the President of Government of India. That time it was by the Health Minister. Yes.
So I mean, I can't go through every awards because then the whole 1 hour I will have to go through your all the awards and all. So let's skip few of the awards. You have got a lot of awards. I don't know how many awards you would have got. Uh, Yeah, this was something with Sunil Gavaskar. You are also looking like a film star, madam. So it's okay. So, but other than being stroke, I think what you have been involved in medical curriculum making, neurology curriculum making across. I mean, during your, so I think this was one of those meetings where you
Yeah,
have
this
involved.
was mentoring AIIMS, and this was Rishikesh. And you see, my another very good friend, Professor Vivek Lal, and Hardeep is here from KGMU. We sort of designed the DM curriculum, and we've been mentoring some of the AIIMS, and AIIMS Rishikesh is foremost amongst them. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I think you went to UCL as a head. I think you have been instrumental in bringing a lot of international projects
Yeah,
to AIIMS.
Mary, and Robert, who is
Yeah.
very, very close to you now, and you are
Yeah.
a fellow. You know more about them than me.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we went to Iowa at that time, and your Framingham visit. I mean, it was. I mean, for me, it was a dream come true to visit Framingham. Never. I think I thought I'd
Yeah,
remember.
actually, that's true. And Framingham, Vishnu, I must confess, we did do it because you suggested it.
Yeah.
Because we go all the way to Boston and not go to Framingham, it was unthinkable. So
Yeah.
we did it, and thanks to you, we have it was amazing, isn't it? But the most
Yeah.
important when you actually take home from there is the commitment to the legacy there is preservation of the records.
Yeah, it's
And that's
amazing.
one
I
thing.
mean, it's
Yeah,
mind blowing how they maintain that cohort.
and that's one thing we should learn, because
Yeah.
documentation preservation is what we really lack here.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. Then yeah, it's one of your favorite moments in your life, your
My
son's marriage.
son's wedding, and these
Yeah.
are my all my little guys all around. The residents, they become those 3 years of residency, Vishnu, their children,
Yeah.
and then they move away, but the umbilical cord stays. So I guess from wherever part of the world they are in, and they send a email, they send an SOS, and some of them look at them. And I'm sure Pradeep is going to be the next health minister of our land.
Of
Like, I'm
Telangana.
absolutely sure of that. And there is that little girl who's now the fellow in Calgary. I'm sure she'll become a faculty there. So many of them have already gone out. They have become, Radha is trying to go. I think he will become a stroke fellow in London very soon.
Yeah.
And you see, that's what some of them are already faculty. it's lovely to see this. So that was on, I think, the reception of my son.
Son's wedding, yeah. So we have this, having celebrating our faculty's birthdays. This is one of your birthday celebrations that we had, which is soon going to come in a couple of days. so, so some of these we'll just see that. And this was the ICGNMD, the project that
As
you brought
center
in.
of no, yeah, but that's a center of excellence, and which you are running,
Yeah,
and that's of course Michael, Hannah, and Rohit, and you are integral part of it. Our director, Dr. Randeep Gularia. I think that was a proud moment for Institute to have
yeah,
this COE coming to us from UCL.
yeah. You are at the right time. I think you went with the
Yes,
AIIMS team
yeah,
to the
James
UCL,
team, and yes,
and yeah.
yeah. Sometimes it's like that. The universe plays out that it positions you so that. But the thing is that you should be always aware of an opportunity knocking at you,
Yeah,
and take it.
yeah,
That's the importance. I think universe keeps giving you those things. You should be aware. Keep your eyes and ears open. Take it when they come.
yeah.
Not caught napping. That's important. Yeah.
Full team that we had.
Yes.
And so this is one of, I think this is one, I was looking through your photo. This is something which is very heart touching photos, right?
Yes. You know
Yeah,
what? That's Professor P.N. Tandon, his
yeah,
brother. And this was, the book release of his, the closed doors and open windows. It's a book that Professor P.N. Tandon had released that day. And he is, see, he's a world famous neurosurgeon. He's probably one of the greatest scientists we have, neuroscientists in the country and in the world. And there he is. Yeah, he was absolutely believed. There was just a couple of minutes when he was talking to his brother that I could just go up to him and congratulate. He just, put his hand around and look at that affectionate belonging kind of that's what. So these are the gurus, Vishnu.
yeah,
When you say Gurudevo Maheshwara, that's what it is.
yeah. It is. So before ending it, I have a rapid fire for you. Okay, so let's go to some few. This one. So I don't want big answers. I want 2-3 sentences maximum. So it's not a yes or no questions, but it is most of the things are, some of things are controversial, but still let's see your reflexes, how early you act in this. So we'll start with first. What is mentorship for you? What do you mean by mentorship?
Mentoring is, again, as I said, look for a spark. When you find a spark, help it grow. It's your responsibility.
Okay. Second, will you be known as a clinician or a researcher?
Clinician, any day.
Any day. Okay, so that's something which I want to say, that because knowing you, that at any moment, at any day, I think a senior faculty can, if you give any complex case and give it to the, you can work up a case as a resident, even now as a resident. But many senior faculties, I think at one point, I think what our generation, I think at least what I try to do is not to lose that clinical skill. So
Yeah, you should not.
so when you get hands down histories from residents, you used to listening to the residents, and you lose that initial skill of evaluation patient by your own. You may not get that. You have that skill, and you still sit till 6 o'clock in the evening and see patients. I mean, that's something which you always have. Then, so what is the first major? We ask you one major challenge that you faced as a junior faculty.
One major challenge
Yeah.
is, I guess I always wanted to belong.
Mm-hmm.
And I that's not necessary. I've learned all in life as such, you don't necessarily have to keep belonging to say you have arrived.
Okay.
You should believe in yourself. So that was a challenge. It took time before I realized I should believe in myself.
Okay. So what is the secret behind a lady coming from Andhra reaching Delhi without any godfather or godwoman, and supposedly, I mean, climbing through in outside AIIMS is considered as a very toxic environment. So whatever we can think of outside, it's people say that it is very competitive, toxic environment. To go through the rises and reach here, people, outside, and that's what I tell many people. She's not that innocent. You don't think that, you don't take her for granted. She, to climb through this and reach at this level, a very innocent person and very calm and quiet, and a person can't do this. So what is your secret mantra behind that?
I don't know. I think being a survivor,
Yeah.
And you learn to survive, but at the time of survival, one should know that you should not tramp on anybody else, otherwise you will get tramped down. So
Yeah.
it is not essential that you should tramp down to climb a ladder. You can still climb and
You
let
can grow
others climb
together.
too.
That's why, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. So what's your one go to mantra for managing politics in medicine or politics?
Ah, okay. I'm never inside the ring.
Okay, okay. Outside politics interfering in your workforce.
In fact, there was a similar question which was asked to me even when I was trying in the interview for a faculty position.
Okay,
And I said, when I'm faced with a boulder, I always try to go around it rather than hit my head and get a concussion.
okay.
And the other important thing which I've learned from my friends is when the light is red, wait,
Mm,
it'll turn green.
yeah,
Wait. So patience, perseverance, empathy.
true. PPC. Okay, we'll get to some short forms with our political leaders are interested in short forms. Okay, then coming to there's something which I have coined a new phenomenon. I think you have told you before. So this Mayavadi Jayalalitha syndrome. It's nothing against Mayavadi Jayalalitha. There are very strong leaders. I'm personally a big fan of Jayalalitha because she single-handedly as a lady grew through the Tamil Nadu politics. At that time, it's a very toxic politics and stand up to the male chauvinism at that point of time. But the only thing that time I had was she wasn't all alone. It is like there was no second ring leaders in her party. Nobody knew who was the second. If Jayalalitha goes, what happened to the next person? So individual. My concept is to in medicine also there is some Mayavadi Jayalalitha syndrome that you create a silo and you are gone. It's over, out of it. Then what do you think about that?
Totally not agree.
Mm.
I would always think that the two things. One is lead from the front. Number two, build your team.
Yeah.
So that it has to be such a team that you actually should be almost redundant. That if you're not there, the vision is kept upright and the team continues. For that, you need to lead from the front. So these are the two important things.
Okay, so looking back, so finally finding the ending, I think the time is up. I think they have sent me a message that you have to wind up. so there are have a lot of questions to ask. I think we'll
You
keep it
can
for
ask me every day, Vishnu.
every day.
Come on.
So this one. So finally looking back, if you say that one thing which you would have done differently in your whole career, now, I'm not saying about residency time from faculty to here, one thing which you would have done differently if you had a chance to do it again. So what thing would have been? Any
Um,
decision or anything which you were saying, okay, I could have done this way, something like that?
yeah. So I guess what I probably had a chance of, uh, you know, doing some fellowships outside,
Okay,
which were a little different, which was more deeper into stroke,
okay,
which I did not for some reasons. But
okay,
probably I could have maybe managed it. I chose the easy way out. So
okay,
that's one thing I do. I believe that I had lost out on that opportunity. Yeah.
okay. So what one thing you will want to say to all the juniors who are interested in neurology and probably looking to in career in stroke? What would your one advice to
That's the
them?
best. To my mind, that's the most happening thing. Neurology is the most happening because that's where you have vistas and horizons where no man has gone there. So you have so many challenges and so much to discover. And the other thing I would say is the stroke probably is the most happening in neurology. And one defining statement: knowledge is power. That's it. Get it.
Yeah, thank you. It's. I mean, it's a great time having you, madam. I think all of the audience you are listening to this legend will be. I mean, you are still. I don't think you. People say legend means it's finally end of their career. I think you are still halfway mark. You have a lot more. You're a lot more to do to the field. You are. I think at least 20 years left for you to make a mark. In West, I think their peak starts at this age most of the time. So now you are in the peak of your career. I think you have a lot of responsibility in you at the position that you are in, a position you may be there in the future to contribute to this field. I think it's that great. With Spider-Man, the movie says, with great responsibility means even with great power means great responsibility. All the best, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
ma'am.